What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. I appreciate you being here. So today I want to talk about what it's been like being an immigrant living in Finland. Unless you've been living under a rock, all over the world it seems to be that immigration has become more of a hot topic recently. And living in Finland, I never paid too much attention to politics in general, but more recently, it feels like I can no longer keep my head hidden in the sand. I've had to confront this stuff head on. And as someone who moved here and who had to get used to the culture, and you could look on my YouTube channel and find a ton of videos where I just talk about Finnish culture and stuff. So, as someone who's had to experience all of that, I feel like I have a very unique experience and I can give my own views, some of which you may agree or may not agree. So, what I want to do is just first start off and just explain why I moved here, how I got used to things, and in retrospect, what I think about what is happening now. I moved to Finland around 4 years ago. I moved for a woman. Initially, I believed I was making the right decision and I came here, and it was really odd. I had never been to Europe before coming to Finland, so arriving here was quite a bit of a shock. There were so many things that I can't even put into words that were incredibly different, at least. So, because of me arriving here and the nature of my arrival, which I won't get too much into, but basically, I had to sit and wait for about 6 months for some of my papers to roll through before I was allowed to work. That was a difficult time. And right off the bat, there were certain things I noticed that were going to be a challenge immediately. The first thing was the language. I'd never heard Finnish before moving here. In fact, I hardly knew that Finland existed. I swear I'd said the word Helsinki maybe like twice in my life before moving here. So when I arrived here, a whole country was speaking a language that sounded like gibberish to me. I was quite a bit shook, and I tried to take it on the chin, but the language was just so weird to me. I do remember walking into a grocery store, and for the first time in my life, I didn't know what I was looking at. It was really weird. I was in the milk section, at least I thought I was. There were all these bottles that looked like milk, but I couldn't tell you which one the milk was or the butter. It was really confusing. It was a difficult feeling. I felt lost. I felt like I had to be taught all the simple things, all the normal things that everyone is used to doing. I immediately realized that not knowing the language was a liability, because it's not only that you can't have really great conversations and you can't get some of the jokes, but you feel quite a bit left out. I remember going to a few parties and stuff. We would sit in places and then people would just start speaking in Finnish, and I would sit there feeling absolutely lost. Do you know how hard it is to hear people speaking but know that you don't understand everything? It's almost like that parable or that metaphor of that goes something along the lines of water everywhere, but not a drop to drink. It's like being stuck in the ocean and being thirsty. It's like there's water everywhere, but the water that you see, you cannot ingest. Your body cannot accept it. That's how I felt for quite a long time, and it was difficult. And I actually didn't want to be in Finland during that time, but it was something that I thought was the right thing to do at the time. And back home in South Africa, I'm someone who's always been very extroverted. I'd go out by myself quite often. I'd make friends, and I would be the guy who would initiate a lot of the conversations. As you can probably see from me doing videos like this, I love talking. I love giving my opinions on things. I love arguing with people in good faith. And I understand that I don't have all the answers, but I like bouncing my views off of other people. When I moved here, I immediately noticed that a lot of people were not able to engage with me on a certain level, simply because some Finnish people are nervous about speaking English and they just don't like it, or they don't feel confident about doing that. So I was I was in this country where I couldn't have deep conversations. My family was 15,000 kilometers away. And for the first 6 months, I wasn't allowed to work. And it was quite a difficult situation for me. But you know what? I pushed through and decided to focus on things like making videos, trying to learn about the Finnish culture. And it paid off in the end because by the time I was able to start working, I felt like I had quite a nice feel of what to expect in Finnish culture. The first job I got, just thinking about it makes my skin crawl right now, because as soon as the government was like, okay, cool, you're set to start working, I jumped on the first thing I could get, with the quickest thing I could get, which was door-to-door fundraising. I didn't want to do the fundraising on the streets. You're walking and then there's someone wearing a type of shirt and you can see them looking at you and you decide to act like you're on your phone or just go the other way. I decided to do the door-to-door version of it. My reasoning at the time was that, you know what, at least when someone is in their home, when you ring the bell, they can choose not to open it, which I felt gave them a sense of power. And plus, it's their home. So I'm just going to go straight up and say that it was a terrible job. It was not fun. It was Doctors Without Borders, Lääkärit ilman rajoja. How did I say that? Did I say that well? So Doctors Without Borders, and you had a sheet of paper and you had to try and convince the other person that they ought to start giving monthly to this charity. I came from a completely different country, a completely different world. I found myself in an alien country and I was going door to door, knocking on people's houses and seeing the most interesting, weird, and sometimes cool people all wrapped into one. I mean, it was get to know Finnish people 101, there was no, it was a crash course. It was a crash course in how the mannerisms of Finnish people. And although the job was pretty trash, I feel like I learned quite a lot during that time. I got a good feel as to how Finnish people act. Like when you go to South Africa, you'll notice that South Africans have a sort of vibe. They usually a lot more open, usually a lot more outgoing. Of course, you will get people who don't want to talk and that sort of stuff. But it was the same thing here in Finland, but just the opposite. I noticed that a lot of people just genuinely didn't want to talk all that much. And if they did, that was pretty cool too. I met some really lovely people. I met some questionable people. I've always had to take care of myself for as long as I can remember, even from when I was quite young. We grew up in quite a poor home, so I wasn't going to sit around waiting for anyone to help me. And at this point, I already knew that Finland had this thing where they give money to people. And I'm saying it like that because in South Africa, that just isn't a thing. For me, I was just like, nah, I don't want to feel like the country of Finland is going to start viewing me as a liability, as someone who just comes and takes. So I didn't take anything and I didn't want to either. And this was before I knew anything about the politics. I knew nothing. I spoke to some people who were like, yeah, you must totally do it. I don't like to be given handouts, And part of the reason of me coming here was to try and make a life a little bit. To be fair, full disclosure, I was not planning on staying here for too long. I was hoping that we would stay in Finland for a little bit and then leave, possibly go to America or something. And it's kind of weird that looking back now, in some of the ways I've changed and grown as a person living as a member of society in Finland, I can't begin to imagine how uncomfortable I would feel if someone that I didn't know just came to ring my bell and tried to sell me some charity or something. I don't even think I would open the door, or I would open the door and just say no or politely listen and just be like, yeah, I'm not interested. But the feeling of someone at my door, why does that terrify me? What have you guys infected me with? Why do I feel this way? I feel like talking about just how much I've changed living here deserves its own video. Let me know if you want to see that. And of course, if you are enjoying this so far, please leave me a like. I would appreciate it. It helps the video. And subscribe if you haven't subscribed. There came a point where I was certain that the job I was doing needed to end. I was able to earn a little bit of money. I went into the hospitality industry, working in a restaurant. And at first, I was quite nervous. I thought that I wouldn't be treated the same. I thought that I would be viewed as just the immigrant guy. When I first started working in restaurants here, I was working as a runner. A runner is the person that just brings all the plates and foods and stuff to the table. They're not having direct communication with the customer constantly. Like, it's not a waiter, you know? And for a little bit, I was quite all right in that role. And in fact, when I first went into the restaurant industry, I first was doing dishwashing, and I was like, hey, as long as I work and I earn my money, I'm all right. And immediately I remember noticing that people didn't really care that you were doing dishwashing or whatever. You could be mopping floors. As long as you were earning your money, I felt like you had people's respect. So anyway, back in South Africa, when I did do some restaurant work on the side to my music, because I'm actually a musician, I was always a waiter. I admit that I was a little bit nervous to try and be a waiter as well here in Finland, because it was a completely different ball game, you know, and I felt a little bit out of the loop. I couldn't speak the language and it was a little bit scary. But then I decided that it doesn't matter. As long as I work hard, I'll be fine. So then I started waitering properly, and I was amazing at it. A lot of the restaurants and companies actually wanted me to work for them because I got really good at it. And something that I genuinely noticed when I was working in those environments was that no one cared that I was an immigrant. No one cared that I looked different, spoke a different language. Everyone just cared that I did my job and that I was hardworking, and my respect for the Finnish culture just went up so much. Because as soon as I started working and being involved and earning my money, I genuinely started feeling as though I was a part of the culture. I was one of the Finns, you know, albeit one from South Africa. It was great working, paying taxes, feeling like I'm adding to the economy, playing my part. And on top of that, although I couldn't speak the language, I decided to immerse myself in the culture, to taste the foods, to do the things that Finnish people do, to just go head in, learning how to handle winter. And I started making videos about it, and I put my heart into it, because in my head, I was like, hey, listen, I'm in a country that I wasn't born in. I think that the best thing I can do is try and add good vibes and be an asset. While all this is happening, I did not know there was discussions happening in the background about the immigration system and about how some people were living off the government aid. I just figured that anyone who moves to a different country will try and assimilate as best as they can and try and add to the country. Fast forward a few years, now I'm working in a software company and I do social media and that kind of stuff. And same thing applies. Everyone treats me good. I love working where I work, and there's just mutual respect. And then the election came. And for the first time living here, I noticed online that there was a lot of arguments, and in some cases, weirdly enough, there was some hate to all immigrants, you know, and I know that isn't indicative of every Finnish person, but in general, Finnish people have always struck me as people who, you know, they respect you for who you are, and you work hard and you play your part, and it's cool. You show respect to the culture. Part of the reason I started this channel in the beginning is realizing just how much Finnish people love seeing their culture reflected through the eyes of someone who wasn't initially born in that culture. But seeing some of this stuff online, and then the new government comes in and starts proposing certain types of laws that would affect someone like me, and I was confused. I was confused at first because I didn't know some of the stuff that was happening in the background. I was like, hey, I've come here and I've worked hard to get to where I am. Why are some of these laws so harsh against someone like me who has been as self-sufficient as possible? I still haven't done a massive ton of research, but from the little I've seen, when people come here from poorer countries, asylum seekers, or humanitarian immigration, there are some people who tend to just live off the government aid and not expand any further than that. As someone who has himself worked hard to to get to a place where I can live freely, I guess I can understand the frustration when it comes to that. One thing I've noticed about Finnish culture is that within it, there are certain values that Finnish people hold in high regard. And I guess you could find this a similar thing in many different countries all around the planet. But the thing is, if people are coming to your country who do not hold the same values that you hold in high regard close to their hearts, there's going to be some massive clashes. Finnish people are very passionate about their culture. And if people are coming here and are not trying to be a part of that culture, it begins to cause some rifts. I've lost a few things while living here. I've lost a wallet. I lost a laptop. Most of those things have always come back to me. And that blew me away. It just seems like there's this understanding that if something is not yours, you don't take it. Or if you do take it, you are taking it to a lost and found or something. Except bicycles, though. Nordic and Scandinavian countries, I think people go out and they drink and then they borrow bicycles to get home or whatnot, which is really funny. And this is the only place I have seen where there's been a locked bicycle and it's been completely stripped for parts. I'm always wondering, what do some of those people do with those parts? There doesn't seem to be like that doesn't even happen in South Africa, which is absolutely hilarious. But apart from bicycles, I feel like your stuff is genuinely quite safe. My experience being an immigrant here has been a mostly positive experience. I haven't felt ostracized, or I haven't felt like people have looked at me in weird ways. I haven't felt like there's been hidden racism being thrown at me without me actually knowing it. I felt very free. I felt like I have been able to achieve anything I want to achieve here as long as I'm honest and I treat people with respect and kindness. I most of the time get it back. So when I see this stuff online, I am so confused. And I think there is a lot happening in the background that is mixing together and causing this confusing mess. The people that I speak to in real life, they are nuanced. They are able to see both sides of arguments. Finland isn't a place with roaming racists running around attacking me, or at least I haven't seen that. My perspective would be that Finland must be careful to not harm the people who are coming here and actually bringing value. Finland does need a ton of specialists from all over the world. And if Finland wants to be effective on the world stage, it has to be a place that is attractive to some of these professionals. I feel like by trying to handle some of these issues with immigration that is usually linked to the humanitarian side of things, they just hitting on everyone. I personally don't think that is a clever strategy. I don't think that it's going to be good for Finland. This needs to be approached in smarter ways. And I guess there can be lots of discussions around how does one get assimilated into a country. All I can do is just look back at my own journey through this. Now a couple of years have gone by and I absolutely love this place. This is home now. This is more home to me now than my previous home, which is mind-boggling when I think of that. To people who are moving here, I would say to you, just make sure that you put your whole heart and mind into trying to be as a part of the culture as you can be. It's a good thing to try and assimilate to a country within reason, right? And to Finnish people out there, I would definitely say, don't be so polarized as it seems online. I know most of you are nuanced and intelligent, and I know we can have debates and conversations that are genuine without demonizing certain types of people. I know, yes, there are certain xenophobic people, but in my experience, I've noticed that most Finns are not. They have very real issues about immigration, and that's all right. And I think some of those things do need to be dealt with. The experience of coming here as someone who is a refugee or an asylum seeker, I'm sure is quite devastating and quite hard. But having said that, I think that this is the best place to arrive and want to do as best as you can and to be able to stand up on your own 2 feet. You can, there's so much opportunity here. You know, the cool thing about work is if you do well, people just respect you anyway because you're doing your work. Yeah. That was an absolute rant. But anyway, guys, that was me. I am soon going to start doing podcasts on here, which I'm pretty excited about. I want to make it a mix of having discussions with other immigrants as well as Finnish people and kind of create a bit of a window for people to see into what is happening here. And because I definitely know that my handle on some of these politics is not fantastic. I'm not as knowledgeable in some of these things as I would like to be. And if some of those things excite you, please subscribe to the channel. You guys are awesome. Have a fantastic day or evening or wherever you're watching this from. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Cheers for now. Bye.